Hey, everybody, and welcome to Friday Night Spotlight, brought to you by Jones Ford Buick GMC, your hometown dealer for more than 50 years. I'm Brian Wright, and I'm joined by Maria Vasquez, and we're talking more state playoff football. And of course, that is a very good thing because that means we still have teams that are alive in the playoffs. And we've got two Pinal County teams that are left. They have both reached the state semifinals. We got Casa Grande in 4A and we got Santa Cruz Valley in 2A. And for Casa Grande, this is the first time the program has ever made the semifinals in school history. Huge accomplishment. A lot of excitement in Casa Grande about what's going on with that team. And conversely, when you look at Santa Cruz Valley, Richard Davis has this team in the state semifinals for the fourth time in the last 5 years. So a very, very successful run for Richard Davis and the Dust Devils. Well, let's get right to it, Maria, with the 4A matchup that is going to feature number one Casa Grande at 7-1 versus number 4 Glendale Cactus at 7-2. Now, last week, Casa Grande, they played Peoria, and I got to admit, I thought this was going to be a fairly comfortable win for Casa Grande. It was anything but comfortable for the first 3 quarters of this game. Peoria really came to play, and they punched Casa Grande in the mouth, but Casa Grande punched right back. They dealt with the adversity very well. They outscored Peoria 20-0 in the fourth quarter, finally putting that game away late. So Maria, when you look at Casa Grande right now, what are your thoughts on how they look heading into this semifinal?
So last week we spoke about quarterback Angel Flores and running back RJ Keaton. Now this week I want to highlight some of the other guys and some of Flores's other weapons that he can use on the field, and that's the wide receivers. One guy that really stands out is Demetrius Garrett. He leads all of the receivers with 564 yards, 6 touchdowns, and the stat that really stands out to me here is that he averages 22.6 yards per catch, and that's big, for moving the ball around for the Cougars.
The one thing when I look at Casa Grande is the word that keeps coming back to me is depth, and they have so much depth on both sides of the ball. Anytime in the game, you can see a big play made, and you just don't know who's going to make it because they have so many guys who can make plays. You mentioned the wide receiver group, and while Demetrius Garrett is probably their best receiver, he is explosive. He can get downfield and beat guys with his speed. They got a lot of other guys who can make plays too, including Anthony Flores, like you mentioned, and DeAndre Kelly. And then when you looked at the game against Peoria last week, it was Jet Hale who really stepped up and had a nice game. And he had over 80 yards receiving and a touchdown. He even caught a 34-yard pass on a 4th down and 28. Late in the third quarter, Casa Grande had a 4th and 28. Angel Flores, 34-yard completion to Jet Hale, helped set up a touchdown that really kind of put Casa Grande in good position for the rest of that game. So, Maria, looking at their opponent coming up, which is Cactus, what do you see this matchup shaping up to look like?
I think this is going to be CG Union's toughest test defensively. Last week, Cactus faced Coconino, and they completely shut down one of the top running backs in the 4A conference. Coconino's Zach Bennett. He came into last week's game averaging around 146 yards per game, and Cactus only limited him to 39 yards all night. So this is going to be an interesting matchup to see how the Cobras face off against CG Union's running game with Angel Flores and RJ Keaton.
So this opponent, Cactus, Jake Barrow told his players after the game that he considers Casa Grande and Cactus to be the two best teams in 4A. He told them that this is going to be the state championship, even though it is the semifinals. He told them these are the two best teams in 4A. He told them to treat this game like a state championship game. So he knows how good Cactus is. And when I talked to Barrow a little bit about Cactus, he mentioned their defense, and he said that they have a very aggressive attacking defense. And when you look at them, they got some big playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. I'm looking at Aki Pulu, who had, just if you want to talk about this game last week against Coconino, he had 12 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 2 interceptions. The team had 3 total interceptions. They also have Ata Tatupe, hope I'm pronouncing that right, and he has 92 tackles, 9 tackles for a loss. Justin Holmes has 15 tackles for a loss. So a lot of good playmakers for Cactus that are going to challenge CG Union. But again, CG Union has so many different ways that they can beat you, mostly with the running game, but certainly they have big playmaking ability in the passing game as well. What are any other factors you think that are going to be ones to watch in this game, Maria?
So for Cactus, they're likely going to throw 2 quarterbacks at the Cougars, and both of them are sophomores, and that's Will Galvan and Chase Jasinski. Now, they combined for about a 49% completion rate, and last week against Coconino, they combined for 105 passing yards. Now, Galvan had 2 touchdowns, and Jasinski had the 2 interceptions. So depending on who's playing quarterback at the time, it's going to be interesting to see how the CG Union defense can adjust.
Yeah, and just to mention some of the playmakers on the Casa Grande defense, Jake Thomas, senior linebacker, he's really the glue for them. He plays in the middle, and he had a fumble recovery in that game, and he is really, I think, the tone setter for them and is a leader for them. They also have, let's see, just in that last game against Peoria, you had DeAndre Kelly come up with an interception. Justin Campbell had a pick 6 that really was probably the play that put the game away for Casa Grande in the 4th quarter. And you talked about that 2 quarterback kind of system that Cactus runs, and this is what could really get Cactus in trouble, is if they're going to rely on the passing game. If you look at the stats of those 2 quarterbacks this season, they have combined for 12 interceptions. And I think a Casa Grande defense is looking at that and licking its chops, because they force turnovers in bunches. And so Cactus better be very careful throwing the football, because nobody takes the ball away better than Casa Grande. Any final thoughts on that matchup?
Jake Barrow mentioned it. I think this is pretty much going to be the championship game for the 4A conference, even though it is only the semifinals.
All right, let's move on and talk about the 2A semifinals, which, of course, features Santa Cruz Valley, and they're going to be going up against number 7 seed St. John's. Of course, St. John's is there because they upset the number 2 seed, which was Scottsdale Christian. And they beat Scottsdale Christian 22-21. Definitely a thriller of a game in that other quarterfinal. Meanwhile, Santa Cruz last week crushed Scottsdale Prep 55-6. They continue to just roll against whoever is put in front of them. I am not sure how good St. John's is. We don't have stats to talk about as far as St. John's. They have only 1 loss on the year. We know that they did, as I mentioned, they beat Scottsdale Christian, which was previously undefeated. Scottsdale Christian was 7-0. They were ranked number 2. But all along, I've said these seedings are whack because Santa Cruz should be number 1 running away, and they're actually the number 3. So it's hard to know what to make of all this. But Maria, you covered that game last week with Santa Cruz playing Scottsdale Prep. And tell me what you're seeing out of the Dust Devils right now.
So after the game and talking with Coach Richard Davis, he mentioned that at that time they didn't know who they were going to play, whether it was St. John's or Scottsdale Christian. And he said that from this point on, whoever the Dust Devils face, it's going to be better competition for them, because these are all playoff teams that are remaining. They have that previous experience, and they're pretty familiar with one another. So going off of that, he expects a little tighter competition and everything. But the thing that stood out to me is, I wouldn't say he's worried about how his team might perform, but there's a little uncertainty there, given that these past games have been blowouts for them. But the thing that stands out to me after having them covered them all season long is they're battle tested for whatever they're going to face, and that helps them because while there's not really that much competition in the two-way conference, they played two 3A teams, and in 4A they've faced off against CG Union, so they know how to handle the passing game, how to stop the running game. So I think Santa Cruz is in a really good position here.
Right. Santa Cruz beat both of those 3A teams, and their only loss came to Casa Grande, which, of course, isn't just a 4A team, but the #1 team in 4A. And so, like you said, battle tested. And I think that's what really helps when you get late into the playoffs is you need to be battle tested. And so Santa Cruz is. They can't help that the rest of 2A is not on their level. So, they're blowing out these teams, these 2A teams week after week, but they have challenged themselves by playing those bigger schools and have done very well in those games. But I have a question for you, Maria, and my question is Hunter Ogle against Scottsdale Prep, he rushed for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'm just wondering, who's going to stop Hunter Ogle?
In the two-way conference, I don't think there's anybody that can stop him.
Well, so I mean, obviously that is a focal point here with St. John's. St. John's, I can't say this, is that St. John's is coached by Mike Morgan, who is the all-time winningest high school coach in Arizona history. So let's give credit to the coaching staff there, because we know that's going to be a very well coached team. But what else should we be focused on going into this semifinal matchup?
So I spoke about them last week, and that's the Santa Cruz defense. In the past 3 games, they have just kept getting better and better, and that's saying something. Because I mean, once you reach the playoffs, you think, okay, this is the team we're going to expect to see all the time. You don't expect to see that progression, but I'm seeing that from the Dust Devil defense every week, and just the last 3 weeks, they have 13 interceptions. Last week, they had 4 tackles for a loss. Robert Maldonado, Sias Lopez, Tanzer Gill, they all had a big game on defense. And majority of these guys who are coming up with the big plays now, they're juniors. So that's saying something for, the future of this Santa Cruz Valley program. It's like, okay, yes, you have Hunter Ogle on offense and some pretty good defenders who are also seniors, but hey, this won't be the last time you hear about Santa Cruz in the next couple of years.
That's a good point. And, one thing that we usually don't talk about when we talk about Hunter Ogle is how good of a defender he is. I mean, you put that guy out there at linebacker, and he really makes their defense just that much more dynamic. We know that they can really get after the passer with Robert Maldonado and some of these other guys, and their secondary. I mean, you got Steve Calvin, you got Wyatt Ogle. Very good kind of at all levels of the defense. Do you think St. John's can make this a competitive game? I guess that's the real question, Maria.
Not really knowing much about St. John's, I would like to say yes, but I'm unsure at this point.
Yeah, and again, it's unfortunate we don't have more information on St. John's, but knowing Santa Cruz, I just really think that this is a team on a mission. And you looked at the 3 other teams in 2A that were really their biggest threats, and they're all in 3A right now. So I really think that the 2A conference is theirs. They own it. Of course, they still have to go out on the field and prove it in this game. And then if they win this game, they got to prove it one more time in the finals. But that is something I definitely expect Santa Cruz to do. Any final thoughts on this one?
Just one quick note. You touched on him briefly, and that's Steve Calvin. Now you mentioned Hunter Ogle, how great he is on both sides of the ball. It's the same thing about Steve Calvin. When he's running the ball, it's kind of like you're watching a pinball machine. He's just bouncing off defenders, and if they try to tackle him, one, he's either just going to run right through you or drag you along. There's no stopping this guy, and then it's the same on defense. You catch the ball, you're not paying attention. Hey, it's gonna feel like you got hit by a train when Steve Calvin tackles you.
Well, I think I speak for a lot of people when I say it's just awesome that we still have a couple teams playing football, two teams that are in the semifinals and in contention for a state championship. So that's great to watch. And of course, it gives us plenty to talk about right now, and hopefully we'll have more to talk about next week. That does it for our program this week. Remember to visit pinalcentral.com for all of your Pinal County football state playoff action, and we will see you next week.